Streaming now, this is the Wood TV Live Desk.
The future of recycling in West Michigan. Happy Earth Day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm News 8 digital anchor Luke Laster here from the Wood TV Live Desk. And on this Earth Day, Daybreak anchor Teresa Weekly is joining us here to share some more on what she learned with some Earth Day related stories there. Teresa, good morning.
Good morning. I love that we've got the green and the blue today.
Yes. Oh, very fitting.
For Donate Life Month as well.
Yes, it does.
But I do want to talk about recycling. And I went to the Kent County Recycling and Education Center this week, which I've never been there in person before, and I just feel like I learned so much. I really wanted to share that and what I noticed at the landfill as well when I was working on these Earth Day stories.
Well,
are you a recycler?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep,
okay.
We have ours, the city recycling bins, you know, so we are, absolutely. But I don't think people realize how impactful Kent County is just in terms of recycling as the whole state.
Yes.
You know, what did you learn out there?
Well, the managers out there think that in Kent County we are doing a good job, but there's always room for improvement. So even though the numbers have improved, they want to see a lot more happen. That facility, the Education and Recycling Center, processes about 30,000 pounds of recycling every year, and they have a lot of issues that they've noticed too. So much of what happens there depends on what's happening in the markets and new things that are happening. So I talked with Kristen Weiland, who's the communications and marketing director, and she talked about the Amazon effect. There are so many more boxes that we're getting at home, and it's just different packaging than what we used to get when we would just buy at the store. So they have tons of boxes, but she also sees a lot of that cardboard going to the landfill where people aren't even trying to recycle it. So that's an issue. So know that, of course, you can recycle those boxes, and you should. Just make sure you cut them down because their equipment can't handle really large pieces of cardboard. So that's something to keep in mind.
I wonder if there will ever be a time where we could see an Amazon recycling, specifically an Amazon recycling facility, because
they'll come back and pick up all your boxes.
Yeah, because I could only imagine the amount of just strictly Amazon packaging that these type of places see.
That's something really good that we should look into.
Yeah.
Truly. They probably need it because they have to make more cardboard. Or they can use it however they want to reuse it, but it's just, there's a ton of it. And when you look inside the recycling facility and you see those piles and piles and rows of bales that look like hay bales, and they're bales of recyclables all sorted out into different materials. But that's one of the things that they deal with there. Food in your recycling, that's one that more people are learning about. If you don't rinse out your recycling, whether it's mainly it's food, you know, your laundry, detergent, plastic, you can recycle that, and you should. But like the milk jugs and stuff, you just have to give those a nice rinse. It doesn't have to be perfectly clean. It doesn't have to go through the dishwasher, but you should get as much food off of it as you can. So plastic bags, we hear a lot about plastic bags.
There's those bales, not to cut you off, that you were talking about.
Don't they look like clothing?
They do. It look exactly what it looks like.
That's the laundry detergent.
Yes.
Because they come in all those bright colors. Yeah, so those are all that plastic all baled up and ready to go. They sell it. It's a commodity. The price varies just like the markets vary, but they sell it, and that pays for the workers who are there sorting through everything and pays to maintain their facilities.
Nice.
Okay.
But anyway, sorry,
bags. No, I'm glad you pointed that out because it struck me how much those bales looked like clothing, which they don't take clothing, but that's another whole issue we could talk about another time, is the waste of clothing. So plastic bags they can't really do much with. We've, I think on our website talked this week about how you can take them back to the stores. But Kristen Weiland had said, you know, the main thing is that we don't want them to be single use, because I brought up, well, hey, I use them to pick up dog poop. I don't know if anybody else out there is, so should I not be doing that? And she said, no, actually that's good, because then you're giving it a second use, whether you're using it to line your garbage, your smaller trash cans at home in the bathroom, or to pick up dog poop, you're giving it a second use.
Interesting.
And that helps because it's then not a single-use plastic.
Very nice.
So the landfill was interesting. I will say that it smelled a little worse than the recycling facility, as you might imagine. But again, you drive by the landfill, and the South Kent landfill along 131 there, my 100th Street, it's not super noticeable. Sometimes if the wind's blowing the right way and it's a warm day, you'll smell it before you'll see it. But they have trees lined, and it's covered on the edges there by the interstate or the highway. But there's so much engineering that goes into a landfill.
Oh,
I just think
I
it's like a
imagine.
huge pile of trash, which it kind of is, but there's a lot that goes into that, a lot of planning. And first of all, you'll notice all the plastic bags lining all the fences. They have fencing everywhere. It's very windy, so they got to catch all that stuff. And a lot of it is plastic bags. And they get all kinds of waste dropped off there every day. And it's interesting because so much of it is stuff that could be reused. In fact, Weiland said it was 75% of the material they get could actually be used in some sort of recycling or used in some form. A lot of it is food waste or compost waste that could go to their anaerobic facility, or anaerobic digestion is what she called it. And so what they're trying to do, and actually the news that really came out of this is that they're in a time crunch here where in the next year or two they have to figure out what they're going to do with the 250 acres of land that's just south of this landfill. They have this property, and they're either going to expand the landfill or turn it into something else. A sustainable business park is what they'd like to do, and they're in all these conversations right now with municipal leaders in the surrounding areas to try and figure out if they are going to move forward with that or if they're going to expand the landfill. But they're going to run out of space for landfill if they continue to just put trash underground in this way. So what they want to do is create this sustainable business park and get that material out of the waste stream and capture it for use as a commodity. And that would include anaerobic digestion. So they'd sort it out and get all the compost material, the organic material, and use that in anaerobic digestion and energy. They would also, they have a manufacturer, a board manufacturer, who's already shown interest in becoming part of the park. They would take scrap paper and film plastic and turn it into boards, like kind of like MDF boards, composite material that you would see, and that would go into like the big box stores, those kind of corporate buildings, the flat roofs. That's what they would use those boards for.
Interesting.
And I mean, that's all a possibility, but there's no infrastructure in that area, so they have to bring in the roads. And one of the grants the governor recently announced is going to help cover the infrastructure that they need for that. But it's just interesting to see what those plans are.
Did they have a timeline on when something like that could be expected?
So they have to make a decision in the next year or two, one way or the other, because they have to get all the permits. So if they approve this sustainable business park, then they would get the contracts going in the next year, and then construction in the following 2 years. And they think it could be, up and running then in the next 3 to 5 years. So we could see these things happening. I want to also mention, are you a composter?
No, not
Me
really.
neither. It seems kind of complicated. It seems time intensive.
What would that process be like for just a private citizen?
Well, you'd have to get the equipment that you'd need. You'd have to have the space for it. There are different ways of doing it, whether it's a compost pile or I believe you can also have bins or something like that you could compost in. However, you may also check with your waste hauler, because there are companies already offering compost bins like you have a trash bin or a recycling bin. That would make it a lot easier for everybody, because personally, I don't know anything about composting. It would take a lot more effort to actually do it on my own. But if my waste hauler offers it, then you would just separate out your organic material, your food waste, and then they would come and collect it like they do your trash and your recycling. And that might already be an option for you depending on where you are. And the more people that use that do it, then the cheaper it becomes. So that's something that's actually available right now, and most people just don't know about it.
Teresa, going back to these bales that we just saw there, when you were there, taking some of that video, what was it like seeing them actually kind of come together and get made like that with all that giant machinery?
Well, there are also a lot of people that work there, and that was one thing that struck me. we tend to think of these facilities as just having all these machines, and they do have a lot of machines that
Right.
sort through things. They have a magnetized area that pulls up the cans, and then they have the baler that is a machine that that bales all the recyclables. But they have people everywhere sorting through things too, and picking out the material that's not supposed to be there. And so yeah, it was interesting to see that process come together. But they use it and sell it, and they have in their education center like the milk jug, and it shows you the bench they made from the recycled milk jugs.
Oh, okay. Very interesting.
But that education center is open for tours. You could do what I did and go and look at the facility every Monday. I think it's from 1 until 4 or 1 to 5. I have to double check the hours on that. But,
Field trip idea.
but anybody can go.
Yeah.
Summer with your kids, you're looking for something to do. I mean, maybe. I think it would be really interesting. I plan to take my kids this summer, actually, because I learned so much about recycling that I didn't know, and it's going to change how I recycle at home. I wasn't recycling nearly as much plastic as I should because I didn't realize I could. So,
Teresa, Earth Day 2022, anything else that you'd like to add out there? Folks, by the way, before you answer that, Teresa, attached to this stream, it'll take you over to woodtv.com. There's a link to Teresa's story there, The Future of Recycling in West Michigan. You can read it there. And, but yeah, Teresa, anything else you want to make a mention of?
you know, I mentioned the engineering that it takes at a landfill, but I didn't really get into what's involved in that. And they, just to give you an idea of the problem with trash, I mean, they have to put pipes into each section, into each hill of trash that go down to different depths once they close off that section because of all the methane that builds up. In that hill.
Oh,
So
there's
it
another aspect.
Pipes down that collects the methane and gets it out of there, as it's a dangerous material that they don't want to have, dangerous gas. And they also have another system of pipes that collect the liquid. So when it rains and that goes through, that can be toxic. And so it collects that liquid and sends it off to the wastewater treatment facility. So that's, you know, an idea of the issues that come from having piles and piles, hills of trash like that. Also, another thing that Wyland mentioned was the mattresses. I mentioned the Amazon effect.
Yeah.
Well, mattresses are really easy to order nowadays.
Right.
You can do it online, and so many people do, and they've noticed a lot more going into the landfill. The problem is they have this 120,000 pound machine that looks like an excavator with metal cleats on it instead of tires. And they drive that around to crunch down all of the trash, and so that doesn't take up any more space than it needs to. But the mattresses are a problem because it gets all caught up in the equipment, and it just doesn't crush down the way that they need it to. So those are a problem. They're trying to figure out what to do it. It's kind of labor intensive to take those.
I was going to say, sounds like some work, yeah.
But they do have people who do that. There's one called Recycled Dreams, I think, in Grand Rapids, and another in the Rockford area they've been working with. But they got 30,000 mattresses at the landfill last year. Wow. And one company can't handle all that. They have to take it all apart, and they can use it. There's wood in there, there's metal in there, certainly material that could be reused, but it's just...
But again, labor intensive, as you
Exactly.
mentioned. So
Yeah, so those are a couple things also to keep in mind. So when you're getting rid of your mattress, maybe try and find someone who can take it that will dispose of it in an eco-friendly way.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you tuned in maybe halfway through this stream or just now clicking in, again, there's a link attached to it. It'll take you over to woodtv.com. Teresa's full story can be found there. Teresa, thank you.
Thank you. Happy Earth Day.
Folks, this has been a look at the Wood TV Live Desk. I'm News 8 Digital anchor Luke Laster. Have a great afternoon, and as Teresa just said, happy Earth Day. We'll see you around.